SpeekyGeeky's TMNT Character Spotlight. Hi, everybody. Welcome to SpeekyGeeky. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Geeky. Today, we are going to be discussing and giving a big ol' spotlight to NECA Archie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures toy line. Over the years, we've tried to bring you episode after episode of all different lengths and realms of Turtles. Sometimes those episodes were Mirage, sometimes Fred Wolf, sometimes 2012, but historically, and you know we love diving deep into all the history here, those would focus on around 6 or so rad characters within each offering. Over the years, however, we've had a myriad of folks take time out of their busy days to ask us if we might be able to keep all the deep diving fun, but, you know, break it down a bit, because there's a big difference between finding 15 minutes at a time to learn about one exciting character versus over an hour to hear about 6 or more. So we figured, heck, we think there's a way to meet folks where they're at. However they'd like to view our deep dives by creating both a long form episode and a series of shorter, broken down character specific episodes. So that way, we're putting the turtle power of choice in the viewer's hands on how they would like to interact on all our dorky character content goodness. Plus, this way, if you like a specific character and want others to know how freaking bodacious they are, boom! You can share a quick story with them versus throwing a full-on shelf of encyclopedia books their way. That said, we'd love for fans to weigh in on who you would like to see covered in our TMNT deep dives too. So be sure to let us know in the chat and in the comments below, because who knows? Some of your choices may end up making an appearance or two in one of our upcoming episodes as well. So welcome to our new-ish Spotlight series, where every episode we choose a different character from the various worlds of Turtles, and eventually other shows as well, to deconstruct their origins for your viewing entertainment. A reminder here too that each of these episodes can be found in their fuller form within other episodes within our channel as well, which we'll always be sure to conveniently drop links for within the video and the description. So if that is your preferred way of hearing more, by golly, we got you covered there too. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy hearing more about a specific character within the world of Turtles than you could ever want to know. Future Donnie. For the sake of simplicity, let's just call this version Donatello Does Time Machines. We are of the firm belief that the only way to make Donatello even cooler than he comes naturally is to throw him into a duster trench coat and send him traveling back through time to save the future from the past. Oh, and having a retractable bow staff that also doubles as a blaster doesn't hurt toward adding extra levels to his overall coolness factor either. Sure, we've seen Donatello come in a wealth of different looks throughout the life of the Turtles franchise, including a shrunken down version of himself that embodies a mech suit similar to Metalhead in Tales of TMNT, a full-on cyborg in IDW's Urban Legends, a Pteranodon in the original Playmates toy line, and even a parody of Electro in the form of Mirage in 2003's Super Turtles. And though all are 100% all major top-class variants of Donatello we need to see someday in toy form as well, as far as we're concerned, within the Archie series at least, this is the version of Donatello we'd be excited to see the most. Well, hold up, you might be saying. Isn't this basically just Donatello, but you know, older? Sure. If you want to be reductive as all shell, then we guess that is technically accurate. But importantly, you left out the words, and wiser. If you thought Teenage Donnie was one smart terrapin, wait until you get a load of the techno know-how on his later model. This version not only had a wealth of failures under his belt, but this dude has also seen some stuff, and the result has made him a more confident and tempered hero. Digging into this character a little further, aside from his bodacious look, future Donatello plays a fairly major role within the Archie mythos, in the incredibly thrilling Forever War arc, which came out all the way back at the tail end of the Archie run, and was recently finally finished thanks in large part to TMNT superfan and co-creator of TMNT Odyssey, Arseny Dubikoff, in collaboration with original TMNT Adventures writers like Chris Allen, Dean Clorane, and artists like Jim Lawson and Dan Berger. In this final arc, we see just how entrenched future Donnie was to the trajectory of the Archie series, which, without going into too deep of spoiler territory here, largely centers around his actions being tied to both his own fate and the fate of his brothers. How could we see future Donnie coming to us in the future? Because this character would be comprised of quite a bit of reuse from the classic Archie TMNT Donatello's Buck, we could see this figure's cost-saving migrate into some pretty rad potential accessories. For starters, of course we'd want to see him come with his quintessential purple duster and maskless head, an alternate battle-damaged head, but additionally, it might be fun to see him packed in with a fully extended and fully retracted bow staff, with a blaster effect to place on the tip, perhaps a smaller scale time slip portal, and a lesser articulated helper robot or two. Surprise bonus option. Cudley the COWLICK. Wait, bonus? But Geeky, don't you usually do a firm 6 characters in these episodes? You're throwing off the whole rhythm to the series now. Well, firstly, thank you for noticing our format structure. We put a lot of thought into the way we pace these episodes, and it truly means a lot that we've come to a point where there are legitimate expectations to be met with this series versus our traditional just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks mantra. Secondly, technically, we aren't breaking our rules here because even though this option is very much a character in his own right, he also happens to fall into the category of a vehicle. Though you may want to think twice about calling that to his face. We'd say don't have a cow about this change-up, but we'd be entirely working against ourselves there. So instead, we'll just say, enjoy a ride that will leave you simply salivating. Okay, so what's this dude's deal, Geeky? Why is he so important to the series? Put simply, he's the vehicle for much of Archie's plotlines to happen. Approaching this from a less reductive stance within the Archie series, a great deal of the action centers around the turtles' exploration of the world around them, both past and present, as well as interdimensional space travel. And more often than not, the preferred and only mode of transportation, aside from the time slip device we noted earlier with future Donnie, is a giant floating bovine head named Cudley. Because, as everyone knows, when you are 4 mutant turtles trying to move stealthily between locales, it's important to be as inconspicuous as possible. And nothing says, there's nothing to see here, than an enormous levitating cowhead popping onto NORAD and moving in all sorts of erratic ways well beyond Earth's current transport capabilities. But luckily, he doesn't leave a healthy dose of genetic material in his wake for any folks in the scientific community to gather and prove intelligent life exists beyond our planet, because we're pretty sure that violates the Prime Directive on at least a few spacefaring series. Because that would be pretty oh, he does? Like enough to fill a whole Stump Arena worth? Well, then in that case, let's just remember that this is a comic that was predominantly meant to be read by a younger demographic. And we're already in the mode of accepting that 4 mutant turtles are going on all sorts of wacky adventures undetected by the general populace. So let's maybe just not pick and choose where we draw that, actually, line in the sand. Yeah? Also, as a fun and important aside, Cudley happens to make an appearance in almost every iteration of TMNT, so that's not nothing. And it's also worth mentioning that we almost actually had a bona fide oversized Cudley action figure back in the Playmates days. Around the same time, we started seeing those bigger sized vehicle characters like Needlenose and Killer Bee. But this ally vehicle, along with a handful of other incredibly cool proposed Mega Mutants, sadly never came to be. But if you are anything like us, knowing that information now only compounds that frustration that despite it being decades and a variety of additional appearances later, we still don't have him in our geeky little hands. As we noted, Cudley, despite being such an absurdly silly character, also worked so incredibly well within the franchise. And it turns out that he, or in the lone case of the comic strips, she, isn't just a pretty face. He's also incredibly central to a good deal of some of the Turtles' most important stories within the world of Archie. The Turtles need to get to Stump Arena and become directly at the center of interplanetary war? No worries, Cudley will get you there. The Turtles' first encounter with Wingnut and Screwloose? Yup, Cudley was just the right place, right time giant MacGuffin that allowed for that meeting as well. Technically, it's his actions that actually brought the Mutanimals together as a team. He even steered them initially in the right direction toward going after a common enemy versus pointlessly fighting amongst themselves. So in this way, Cudley might be considered an unofficial member of the team in the same respect that Nick Fury is an unofficial Avenger in the movie universe for orchestrating the creation of that team. Even though Cudley has appeared in Mirage, Archie, the comic strips, IDW comic, the 2012 series, the recent Shredder's Revenge video game, and a blink and you'll miss it nod in the Rise of the TMNT series, his actual origin has never been addressed. We still have so many questions about this bodacious bovine. Questions like, are there more members of the Cudley family out there zipping around through time and space? How did it come to be that he'd find himself working for a couple of shady wrestling entrepreneurs like Stump and Sling in the first place? How did his relationship with Cherubi come to be? Her being an exiled warlord and all. How does he, go to the bathroom? Does he even need to eat? And if he doesn't eat or drink, where does all that saliva come from? So how do we see this heroic heifer making its way to us should NECA decide to thrust him through the pan-dimensional action figure nexus to spit cud sloppily all over our toy shelves? Well, naturally, this dude would be huge. Big enough to hold not just the 4 turtles, but the entirety of the Mutanimals as well. So we're talking oversized Krang-sized big potentially. In an ideal scenario, he would have all the fixings of a typical Archie NECA figure, minus some points of articulation due to the fact that he is missing quite a few appendages. We'd want to see him with adjustable eyebrows similar to the movie versions of Toka and Razar, as well as a fully unhinged jaw, with both an elongated unfurled tongue or tongue that rests nicely within his mouth for those moments he isn't gobbling up traveling passengers. A fun additional touch might be to have his tongue made of a rubbery substance with enlarged taste buds, so that it innately had that extra slobbery feel without having to apply a water substance into the mix. If NECA wanted to go the extra intergalactic mile with this character, which, knowing NECA, they often do, we'd love for Cudley to double as a carrying case. Perhaps with a latch on the side we could flip open, allowing him to swing apart like a Mighty Max playset, his interior looking like a Dimension X or Malignus Hive or the prison planet of Morbus setting, which might encourage folks to purchase multiple Cudleys, one to display as his floating head self, and one to be used for a diorama backdrop. SpeekyGeeky's TMNT polls. Since we're already talking about holding new characters in plastic, we figured we would take a moment to ask you, the viewer, who you would like to see in one of our upcoming videos. We've been running polls on our YouTube community page as well as our SpeekyGeeky Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit pages as to which TMNT characters from various iterations we might want to see as toys. Here are some options from our latest polls, which you can weigh in on here in the comments or head on over to any of our socials for the full list of option names to weigh in over there as well. And stay tuned because these winning options and more may very well appear in an upcoming TMNT deep dive or 2 or 10. There are also some incredibly talented TMNT customizers who are already creating some of those characters who appear on our polls, and it is a beautiful thing to see. Here are just a few of those absolutely creative folks that you are definitely going to want to keep up with, so make sure to follow them on their socials as well. Where else can you find Mr. Geeky in the coming months? Even though we are hard at work putting together a handful of geeky new deep dives and interviews together for you this very minute, never you mind how we know what time of day you are watching this buster, just trust us. If it's in an hour of a day that ends in day, we're probably working hard on it. SpeekyGeeky's very own Mr. Geeky, hey, that's me, still managing to make the rounds all over the YouTubes to spread his dorkiness far and wide. And yep, that sure did sound way grosser than we intended, didn't it? First up, over on our all-ages friendly sister channel, Geeky Jr., for all those of you who appreciate the sound of a voice that can only be described as if nails on a chalkboard met Golem from Lord of the Rings, you're in luck, because Mr. Geeky tries his best on all sorts of nostalgic classic stories with narrations and voices for all your little geeklings and adults who are young at heart. We're talking characters from Sesame Street like Ernie, Bert, Grover, Big Bird, Cookie Monster, Wonder Pets, Daniel Tiger, Thomas the Train, Yo Gabba Gabba, Rubba Dubbers, and so much more. You can also find SpeekyGeeky lending his voice to some upcoming Mirage 2003, 2012, and Rise TMNT comic read-alongs on Teddy Gaming Review's bodacious channel here, as the voice of Professor Kaori on the fan-made audio adaptation of the hit fantasy series The Fourth Wing over on the astoundingly talented Mandy Morrigan's channel here, and finally, we'll be geeking out and dishing on all the current TMNT news on Turtle Talk, as well as helping some rad figures from their plastic confinement on Grippin' and Rippin' over on Dave Wonder's channel here. If you are digging the original art shown from Cerebro, Sebastian Navas, and TMNT Saturday Morning Cartoon Adventures cover artist Mr. Jones shown throughout the character options of this very episode, be sure to show their socials listed in the description some love and check out more of their upcoming art and projects on our Instagram channel as well. Alright, Shellheads, that's it for this episode, but don't stray too far from the turtle lair because our SpeekyGeeky's Archie TMNT Deep Dive Episode 7 is right around the corner. We have no doubt you have some characters that make the tippy top of your list as well that you are stoked about seeing, so make sure to make your hopes known and join the discussion in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to sub up, give the video a like, and share it with anyone you know who would appreciate these types of videos. Also, make sure to check out the description for some other links that lead to some expanded similar content we think you'll probably enjoy quite a bit. We realize you could have gone anywhere and you chose to nerd out with us, and we appreciate that. So, as always, I am Mr. Geeky, and until next we NECA Turtle Speaky, keep it geeky, folks.